All right, I think we'll start at 2 minutes after 4. Welcome to the Planning Committee meeting of Tuesday, February the 2nd. Were there any agenda additions or deletions? All right, the minutes of January 6, 2021 are here for adoption. Were there any errors or omissions?
Move adoption.
Okay, looking for a mover.
So moved.
Well, on my end, everybody is frozen. I'm going to stop my video. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you, Councillor.
Yes.
Sorry, I can't hear anybody.
Hear me, Linda?
Can you hear me?
I'm unmuted now. Can you hear me?
All right, so Councillor McNulty, you moved it?
Yes, so moved.
Is there a seconder?
Second, Carol Day.
Second, Councillor Day.
Second.
Okay, I've got that. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, the next committee meeting is March the 2nd at 4 p.m. in the virtual council room. Item number 1, application by Rick Bowell for rezoning at 9931-9951 Parsons Road from the single detached RS1E zone to the single detached RS2D zone. Mr. Craig and Mr. Andrews.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have nothing further to add aside from highlighting that the rezoning was made to facilitate the subdivision of an existing duplex into 2 single-family dwelling lots. The rezoning is consistent with the lot size policy for the area. The application will provide 1 secondary suite and approximately $12,000 cash in lieu contribution towards the city's affordable housing reserve, in keeping with the city's affordable housing policy. The driveway locations were modified to ensure the retention of existing trees in the front yards, and 3 trees will be retained on site. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Now, I did have that Mr. Bowl, the applicant, was here for questions. Did he arrive, Mr. Clerk?
Sorry, Councillor, he was not here.
All right, I'll open it up to committee for questions. Are there any questions? Councillor McNulty? Councillor McNulty?
Thank you. Probably to Mr. Craig. When we get a secondary suite, do we have any policies with regard to the size of the secondary suite? In terms of, we have sizes now for 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, etc. I guess they're from UDI or whatever, or BC Housing. But do we have anything for minimum size of a suite? To whoever can answer that.
Sorry, are you able to hear me now?
Yeah. Hello, are you?
Through the chair to Councillor McNulty, there is a minimum size for a secondary suite. There is also a maximum size for a secondary suite. Unlike the affordable housing units that are secured under the affordable housing strategy, there is not a prescriptive size as it relates to the number of bedrooms.
What's the minimum and what's the max? Sorry, I should know this, but I apologize.
Through the chair, I believe the minimum size is approximately 33 square meters. The maximum size is 900 square feet, approximately.
900 square. 33 square meters, how many is that? Sorry. Quickly. This one's 366, which is 34, so it'd be about, what, 340, 350?
That'd be approximately 360 square feet.
360. Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions from committee?
Move the recommendation.
Okay, Okay, the recommendation has been moved and seconded. Thank you. Seeing no further discussion, I call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is carried. Thank you. Item number 2, PC Urban Viking Way Holdings Corp. 3671-3691 Viking Way and 13511-13520 Crestwood Place. Mr. Craig and Ms. Lee.
Through the chair, this application is seeking council authorization to stratify 4 existing industrial buildings to create a total of 59 strata lots. The application was originally considered by General Purposes Committee on November 16th, 2020, and it was referred back to staff for further discussions with the applicant. In response to the council referral, the applicant has proposed to increase the contingency reserve fund contribution amount from 5 to 10% of the estimated operating expenses. The applicant has agreed to provide existing tenants with leases that expire in 2020 with extensions until September 31st, 2021. The applicant has also agreed to provide existing tenants with leases expiring in 2021 with lease extensions until December 31st, 2021. And relocation assistance will be offered to any existing tenant that does not wish to purchase the strata lot. I'm happy to answer any questions that committee has on this application.
One question. Thank you for that update. Now, you mentioned the reserve fund the strata reserve fund has gone from 5 to 10%. Do we know what that is in dollars?
Through the chair, yes, the estimated value is approximately $50,000.
So 10% is $50,000.
That is correct. The operating expenses are estimated to be $500,000 per year.
All right, thank you very much. Anybody else in committee have questions? Councillor Day?
Thank you. A couple of things. So the extensions that for the tenants, right now we're going to December of 2021. If they require extra time, what's the plan?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, I would refer that to the applicant for response. So we've reached agreement for the extensions as referenced in the staff report.
Okay.
There are representatives of the applicant here, so perhaps we'll see if there's any other questions for them as we go along, and we'll just keep it to the staff questions right now. I've got a note on that. Any other questions, Councillor Day? Okay. Is there anybody else with questions? Okay, so we'll invite the applicant. I understand there's Mr. Reed from PC Urban, Bob Cabral from PC Urban, Dan Koopa from PC Urban, and Louise Tagwell from PC Urban are here with us.
That's correct, Madam Chair. Thank you for the introduction. Happy to address any questions at the moment. The one question from Councillor Day regarding extensions.
Yes.
Just like to point out, of course, that throughout the course of 2020, we have continuously been providing those tenants who expired during the past year with short-term extensions, and we will continue to do so, as mentioned earlier by Jessica, by staff. As it relates to anything over and above what our current plan that we're offering, we certainly would look at it on a case-by-case basis. If there are extenuating circumstances, then we would try to be sensitive to that, of course. But that's our view at this point on the plan.
All right. I have a couple of other questions to the applicant. Is that okay, Councillor Liu?
Is the applicant finished answering that part of the question?
Madam Chair, yes, we are.
All right. Continue, Councillor Day.
Okay, thank you. So on our page PLN 48, it says that the minimal amount of work has now been changed to $1 million. Can you, I understand that has to do with, everything from fireproofing and whatnot. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Certainly, Councillor David, we'd be pleased to. I'm not sure what the reference was previously about minimal amount of work. We've always had this schedule of work planned to be completed from the beginning of our application. Perhaps it just wasn't highlighted in our last discussion. So the list has been enhanced a little bit further over the past 7 or 8 months by the building department, who has asked that we upgrade certain aspects with fire and safety. So we do have a list. Sorry, was there a follow-up question?
I just want to mention that on the November 4th report, it says that proposed upgrades and improvements to the subject site include, at minimum, exterior painting of buildings and replacement of exit doors and overhead doors, wayfinding pedestrian. But you've changed that significantly since November 4th, isn't that right?
We have always intended to do this level of work. I don't know that we provided that level of specificity previously, but our intention all along was to complete the work that you've mentioned, and as we discussed earlier, the building department had suggested a bunch of work that needed to be done. I can't recall if that was just after the staff report had been submitted, but it was around the same time. So the work that...
Craig, do you want to weigh in?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Through the Chair of the Council, the scope of work has not changed. The information that is being provided in this report is the value or the cost, the estimated cost of that work. So the overall scope of work has not changed. The dollar value associated with that work has been further substantiated.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I was just confused because on PLN 41 it states that there's $1 million to get it up to current building codes, but then on page 48 it said they're just doing the minimum. So I guess maybe they were always doing this work, it just wasn't mentioned or detailed in the original report of November 4th?
That's correct.
Through the Chair of the Council, that is correct. There was no dollar value associated with it. The scope of work did not change, however.
Okay, excellent. So then 10% of the operating expenses, so you're going to put $50,000 into the contingency reserve, and that's just a one-time amount, is that correct?
Through the Chair, that is correct. Once the strata is formed, the strata would be responsible for the CRF funding.
All right, thank you very much. That answers my questions.
Are there any other questions from committee for the applicant? All right, seeing none, are there any other?
Recommendation.
Second. The recommendation has been moved and seconded. Thank you. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
It is carried. Councillor Steve, you were in favor?
Yeah, I said aye. I hope I said it at the right time.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, so it is carried. Thanks very much. Item number 3. Thanks to the applicants. You can leave now. Yep. Application by Polygon Talisman Park Limited to create the residential limited commercial ZMU 47 Capstan Village City Center Zone and to rezone the site at 8671, 8731, 8771, 8831, 8851 Canby Road, 8791 Canby Road, 3600 Sexsmith Road, and 3480, 3500, 3520, 3540, 3560 Sexsmith Road from the single detached RS1F zone to the residential limited commercial ZMU 47 Capstan Village City Center Zone. And for committee, there were several pieces of correspondence that we just got, and I'll just kind of briefly note what they are. Correspondence on the need for more affordable housing, the need for more market rental units, the need for an outdoor concert band shell, forested parkland concept, enlarged maps of park before and after, need for wildlife interpretation, protected wildlife, friendly area, and tree evaluation. I'll turn it over now to Ms. Badgell and Mr. Craig.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes.
The staff report before you today includes a revised proposal. The original rezoning application staff report was considered at the public hearing held on October 19th, 2020, and referred back to staff. Some brief highlights are that the proposed city park was relocated to the southwest corner of the site, resulting in 54 additional trees being retained, and the future park would be subject to a future parks planning process. Over 1,500 square meters of additional public open space is included, including a larger city park area, a smaller publicly accessible open space where the proposed city park was originally located, and additional pedestrian connectivity routes through the overall site. There are 55 additional market rental units, 6 additional affordable housing units, and 3 additional market strata units. The additional market strata floor area required the addition of affordable housing unit floor area, and the revised proposal complies with the city's affordable housing strategy. 10% of the residential floor area, excluding the market rental housing, is provided in the affordable housing units. The revised proposal includes approximately 1,290 residential units, comprising a 156-unit standalone affordable housing building that will be managed by a not-for-profit organization, a 120-unit standalone market rental housing building, and 1,014 market strata housing units in mid-rise and high-rise buildings. It also includes a 1.34-acre city-owned neighborhood park and 0.76 acres of secured public open space. Development is proposed over 4 phases, with the affordable housing and market rental housing buildings in the first phase of development. Invasive species were identified on the site, resulting in a management plan being secured for the park area and the farm soil recovery area being adjusted. An OCP amendment is proposed to accommodate the additional market strata floor area, and the bylaw is included in the agenda package. The proposed site-specific zone was revised to accommodate the revised proposal. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I do note that there are several people here from Polygon Talisman, and we do have one speaker, and I'll get to Mr. Roston in a moment. So I'll open it up to committee for questions first. Councillor McNulty.
Yeah, thank you. Can we just go back? We went pretty quickly. The total number of units that proposed on the site is how many? Was it 1290?
I believe that's correct.
Total, okay, 1290. And we're going to have 120 market rental, right?
Yes.
And they are going to be in one building?
Yes.
Am I correct with Steph? Okay.
That is correct.
And in terms of low market rental, we're going to have how many?
156.
156, and that's in one building, correct?
That is correct.
And we're going to end up with 1,014 strata, whatever. Okay. My question in terms of discussion, do we know how high the strata buildings will be?
Through the chair to Councilor McNulty, the strata buildings will range in height. There will be mid-rise portions in the 6 to 8 story range, as well as the number of towers.
And the towers will be, what, 13 stories approximately?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. Now the 156 low market rental, will that be how high is that? Is that a 8-story building?
No, through the chair to Councilor McNulty, those buildings are wood frame construction. They are 6 stories. Each
6. How high could they go?
6 stories is the maximum height for wood frame construction.
Okay. All right. So we can't do any more in terms of adding and going up in the same building then, in wood frame, unless they switch to concrete.
That is correct. In order to exceed 6 stories in height, you would either need to go to a mass timber construction or a concrete construction.
Was there any discussion from the applicant along that line to go and coincide with the strata buildings? That they might offer more?
Yes, through the chair to Councilor McNulty, we did look at all options available to us. Changing the construction type does have a significant cost implication. There was a desire and a need to keep these in wood frame construction from an economic viability perspective.
Okay, so there were, okay. All right, that's all for me now. I'll come back. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions from committee? Councillor Day?
Very much. Yes, so if there was a partner, an affordable housing partner, let's say BC Housing, that wanted to take it up to the tower height, and would that be something that could be feasible if there was an interested party like the provincial government?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, if I understand the question is if there was additional external funding, would it be possible to consider alternative construction forms? It may be possible. Having said that, I can clearly say in our discussions with other housing providers, there is a significant challenge to going to concrete.
Okay, and this is like 100% more or 200% more than wood construction?
Through the chair, I'd refer that question to the applicant who has much greater knowledge of that, given that they have concrete buildings proposed as part of their development as well.
Okay, I'll ask them later then. So then, previously the province approved rental 10-year zoning. And was any of that retroactive to projects like this? Like, could it be applied to the Talisman project?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, we are using rental 10-year zoning on this project to secure the market rental housing.
Oh, okay. So it's already being applied then. Perfect. Just not as much as what some would want. The 1,014 market strata units, are those permitted to be rented?
Through the chair, there would be nothing from the city's perspective to stop those strata units from being rented. Having said that, it would be possible for a future strata corporation to introduce rules around rentals. That would be up to the future strata corporation that would be formed.
Can the city of Richmond require that all future stratas must allow rentals in those 1,000 units?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, I would unfortunately need to seek some legal advice around that matter. It may be possible to do so, but I could not say definitively at this point.
Okay, well maybe we can do that in camera then. And then now, since the last number of years, because we now have the vacancy and foreign buyer tax, and the BC speculation and vacancy tax. Now, and then we also have the foreign buyer registry. Is there a chance that all of those now being in place that might create less interest from foreign buyers? Is that something you can't speculate on, or?
Through the chair, Councillor Day, what I can say is that there was some recent information published through CMHC regarding private rental vacancy rates. That vacancy rate has increased in 2019 and 2020 as a result of those actions that you've referenced. Right.
The reason I ask is because the report that we got on August 15th from Andrew Nazareth, our General Manager of Finance and Corporate Services, was on the BC speculation and vacancy rate, and the charts kind of speak for themselves. Richmond was pretty much number one in the tax collected, and Richmond is second only to Vancouver in a number of the categories. So I think that the foreign buyer issue is as prevalent here as it is in Vancouver, if not more so in some areas. So I think that I would like to get legal advice from whoever is going to speak later. So, okay, and then that's it for me for now for Wayne. Thank you.
Any other questions from committee? Councillor Al?
Yes, I want to ask a fundamental question. Now, I think it seems to me this is an improvement from the previous proposal. We get a better, a larger park, more trees saved, and we got more numbers of rental and lower market rental units as well. So it seems to be, a betterment of everything. And I just want to ask, how was this being done? How could it be done? So, because we give them more FAR, or, is it a combination of factors that we are able to improve it to this degree?
through the chair to Council, there were a number of actions that had to occur in order for the revised proposal to be brought forward. I have to give Polygon credit for their willingness to revisit the design of the property. The city did provide additional density. That additional density is primarily for the market rental units. There is a slight increase in the amount of density provided for strata units, and that is where the additional affordable housing is generated. So in terms of a sort of scope of those improvements or adjustments in terms of density, it's approximately 30,000 square feet of additional market residential or market rental density is added to the site, 15,000 square feet of strata and 1,500 square feet of affordable housing.
Questions about the trees. So in the original report, the original application, so 168 trees will be cut. And now in the revised proposal, it is mentioned that a number of trees, 50-something trees were saved. So again, it's still about 100 trees not being saved. So, can further information or explanation be given?
Through the chair to Councillor Al, in terms of the additional tree retention, the majority of that is a function of the relocation of the park. Even with the relocation of the park, we do need to identify a number of tree removals from that area for a safety perspective. Our park staff are here to comment further, should you wish, on the criteria that they need to look at if public access is to be provided and hazard trees in those areas.
Did you have a follow-up, Councillor Al? I can't hear you.
Further questions? No.
All right. Any other questions from committee? Okay, we'll invite the applicant. There were some questions for the applicant. And does staff know, do we have anybody who could answer any legal questions? We could go in camera if there was any legal advice available.
Through the chair, we do not have our law department on the call right now. If there are questions from a legal perspective, we can deal with those in the closed session, and I'm happy to provide a follow-up memo should it be needed.
All right. So you think we can handle it in the closed session after?
Yes, Madam Chair.
All right, Mr. Glover, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair.
You've heard the questions from Councillor Day. Did you want to start with those?
Sure. Thank you very much. Councillor Day, the first question regarding construction costs. It does vary significantly between wood frame and concrete, and in particular the height of the concrete. Obviously, more efficiency the taller the tower is. But what we're finding is construction is anywhere from 1.5 to 2 times what wood frame construction costs are.
So, but if you had a partner, I'm just kind of asking crazy questions here. If, let's say, BC Housing came in and said, we'll buy 5 floors, and they're willing to pay the cost, is that something you'd be interested in?
Yeah, I mean, look, we are already working closely with BC Housing on applications for the affordable housing block that we're proposing here. So we're very familiar with those funding pathways and trying to find creative ways to finance a project. I think this is I would say that we are always open to alternative methods of financing a project, but the bigger question here, I think, is a policy process question, which is all tied to the value of the land. So, we look at a market rental or an affordable housing unit policy in the same way that we would look at a CAC on a parcel plan. So, at the negotiation stage for a land purchase, it basically gets deducted from the land value. On this project, we are already 3 years down the path of making applications coming up with a rezoning application. So it's, the land value at this stage is already baked into the project. So for whether it's BC Housing or another organization that's coming forward with a funding path, I can guarantee there's no way at this stage of the process that it would be anywhere near what we would need to make the project feasible. So it really is all about timing and policy process timing.
Okay, I guess, I understand what you're saying. We had the Kinsman Towers, Gallner Road, where the plan was originally for one tower, and then all of a sudden everybody just found they had deep pockets, and BC Housing got involved, and suddenly we got two towers. And that's why I'm asking, because it's happened before, and this is a golden opportunity to use that airspace to supply more rental or affordable housing. So that's why I'm asking if you had any conversations. I know you've already had conversations regarding the 156 units that are going in now, but really, if sky was the limit, literally, what could we do?
Sure. But what I can tell you is that we are in constant conversations with REITs, with BC Housing, around not just this project, but all the projects that we are working on developing.
Okay, and my next question that I had asked was about, can you require that the stratas allow rental in the the market rental units, 120 units?
Yeah.
Sorry, the strata units, the 1,014 strata units.
Sorry, and the question specifically is, can we ensure legally that they do become part of a rental pool when not owner-occupied? I'm just trying to understand what the...
Well, you know how, like all over Richmond, we've got buildings where it must be owner-occupied or it allows rentals. And in so many cases, especially when life changes sometimes, people need to leave those apartments and they can't rent them out. And so I wondered if there was something that you could put in place that would require the stratas to allow rentals, or at least a percentage of rentals.
Sure. Well, without a legal team in the room, I can't comment definitively, but what I do know is that a significant number of our properties are rented. We do not have any restrictions on rentals when we form strata and we pass it out to the owners. So that's kind of the level of the answer that I can give you at this stage, but it's certainly something we can explore.
Okay, maybe we should go in. And then the last question was the foreign. Okay, we now have the BC speculation and vacancy tax, and we have the foreign buyer registry, and those have come up in the last number of years. Do you think that those two measures or three measures will affect your buyers? Do you expect less or more foreign buyers? Because I'm worried about having a ghost tower. Sure.
Polygon, we only advertise in the municipality in the region within which we are building. So we don't advertise overseas. We're not in the business of attracting foreign buyers and foreign ownership. We're primarily building homes for Lower Mainland residents, and that is our target market. So that being said, we don't have in our portfolio a significant number of foreign buyers. So I can't really, I'm not in a position to be able to comment on how that tax may or may not be affecting the market.
Thank you. I know you don't have a crystal ball, but I just thought maybe since you're in the development business, you may have some feeling of how this is going to affect the future sales of these properties. Thank you for your time. And by the way, thank you very much for the work that you've done with staff. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Councillor.
Was there any other questions of the applicant from committee? All right, thank you, Mr. Glover. Now, I believe Mr. Roston, is he in the room now?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
All right. Yes, I can hear you, Mr. Roston. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm just going to set my timer here.
I'm sure I will be kept to 5 minutes. Yeah.
You do have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So first, our thanks to the developer, Polygon, and to city staff, Wayne Craig, Sarah Badgell, and the Parks Department, for moving the park to save the old trees. I know it took a lot of work, and it is very much appreciated. As you know from our written submission, we strongly believe that the housing units should be 65% market rental, 10% below market, and not more than 25% strata condos for sale. And that's because there is a desperate need for large amounts of market rental and no need for more strata condos, given that the 1,850 strata condos are now under construction at Richmond Center. The only way to solve the rental housing crisis is for you to take dramatic action in requiring that large new developments in the city center, like this one, are mostly rental. The BC government gave you the power to do that because no developer is going to voluntarily propose purpose-built rental when it makes a lot more profit on strata condos. In this particular case, there's a profit to be made both from an uplift in land value due to rezoning and from selling rental buildings or condos. So if we ignore the profit on selling the buildings, because there are a lot of other costs involved, like amenities and so on, so just looking at the uplift in the land value, I'm going to be throwing out some numbers. So the 13.5 acre site is currently zoned for single detached housing and valued at around $7 million per acre, which then totals $94.5 million as the present value. If we deduct the land used for streets, public areas, and given to the city for a park, that leaves the developer with 9.5 acres for that $94.5 million, or about $10 million per acre. Land nearby under a new condo development is assessed at around $32 million per acre just for the land. Experts lower that to around $26 million per acre if you restrict it to rental only. If you allow condos on 25% of the land and the rest is rental as we suggest, then the developer stands to make around $167 million in profit just on the uplift in land value. That's a rough calculation, so let's lower it to $150 million to allow for error. If you allow condos on 80% of the land, as the developer proposes, then there will be an additional $31 million profit on the uplift in land value. No developer is going to toss that extra $31 million out the window without a lot of shouting and threats to abandon the project, but at the end of the day, no one is going to abandon that very large $150 million profit if you rezone it for mostly rental housing. The developer's motivation is to maximize profit. Your motivation should be to maximize the benefit to the community, which in this case is rental housing. This situation is directly comparable to mega mansions on farmland. In both cases, using the land for something we don't need is a lot more profitable than using it for something we do need. The only way to get what we do need is to severely restrict it from being used for what we don't need. In the case of mega mansions on farmland, you rejected a so-called compromise to lower the maximum farmland house size from 10,000 square feet to 7,000 square feet because you realized that only a dramatic reduction to 4,000 square feet would change the situation. In this case, increasing the amount of market rental to 30% or 40% won't meet our demand for rental housing, nor have much effect on moderating rents. What we really need is 65% market rental to turn the situation around. As with farmland, doing that will provoke howls from developers and landowners. A majority of you showed considerable courage in restricting farmland use. We need you to show that same courage again in restricting city center residential land use. You owe it to our young people, our families, and our future generations. Many thanks for your time.
Well, 5 minutes, right on time. Thank you, Mr. Boston. All right, I don't believe there were any other public speakers. Did you have a question, Councillor Day?
I do have questions about whether or not we can legislate or require that all these strata units are allowed to be rented. And
well, I do see that our legal, our lawyer, Mr. Capuccinello-Arachi, has come online, so we could call a recess and excuse the public and go in camera and discuss that. So I need a mover for that. A move to recess. So move. Second. Okay. Second. I'm going to give the clerks a few minutes to get people into the waiting room. And if the clerk could let me know when they're ready, we can go into an enclosed session about that. Great. Welcome back. Do we have the applicant there, Mr. Glover?
Yes, Madam Chair, still here.
Great. I'll open it up back to questions from committee. Councillor McNulty, I believe you had a question.
Yeah, I had a quick question. On the 2014, you're going to have 2 towers? The rental or for the market sales?
There are multiple towers. There are 2 on the northeast corner, 3 on the northwest corner, and 1 at the central part of the site where the park previously was located.
So there's going to be 5 towers there?
Yes, 6.
6, sorry, 6. Can't add the, okay. I have a question to you. On the 6 stories for market rental and low market rental, or low income market rental, what would it cost you to go up 3 or 4 more stories? And would that be a possibility if we gave you more density?
Sure. There's a couple other things working against us. One is obviously the construction cost. Construction for, if we do have to go to concrete, is 1.5 to 2 times more than wood frame. That's one. Second one is we are currently very challenged when it comes to parking. So the current staff report shows that we are looking for all the relaxations available to us, and we still have to add a series of TDM measures to make the project viable. So that's 2, and then the third piece is the massing of the overall site. I think we've been working with staff on this application for 3 years, and the relationship with the neighborhood immediately to the east of this proposal is only 2 stories, so there's definitely some concern around context.
Okay, but all right. Well, I'm not going to get the discussion what was and what was in the official community plan when we planned it coming down from SkyTrain. So, are you saying then that it really isn't a possibility?
That's correct, yes.
That we have to relook at it? Okay. Well, then I guess from my point of view, to the chair, then what Councillor Day or Councillor Liu are going to propose, I think, is probably even more so appropriate than what I thought earlier. And as we say, it would be transparent. So I think I'd like to see the reaction, and when somebody go ahead and ask the other question then. Okay? I won't steal your thunder.
Thank you. Councillor Day?
So, Mr. Glover, I'm going to ask you a question, and depending on what you say, we may have to refer this back. So my question is, would Polygon be prepared to register a covenant on the title through the Land Title Office that would require that all of the units, including the 1014 market strata, will remain in all strata councils in perpetuity, the ability to rent them out?
Yes. We currently don't restrict that in our bylaws in any way. We don't restrict rentals. You know, I do understand that from a Stratus point of view, they have to get a 3/4 vote to overturn that bylaw, but what you're describing would run with the lands and keep it as rental and vacant. We have no issue with that at all.
Love it. Thank you very much.
Any other questions for the applicant? Councillor Liu. Councillor Davis is up still. Thank you. Councillor Liu.
Thank you, Mr. Glover. Thank you for coming out, and thank you for the work you've done. When we talk about this covenant, I'd also like to add age as one of the things that can't be restricted either. So when we create the covenant, I'd really appreciate if we can have something that prevents people from stopping different aged people from living in a building, and also prevents people from not allowing rentals. So I think that's where our goal is. I think we're not looking to change everything to be only available for institutional investors. We want it to be so that it's eligible to be rented to families, to individuals, and that a variety of people can buy into this and either make it their home or make it their investment.
That's right. We have no objection to that at all, Councillor Liu.
All right. Any other questions for the applicant?
Just a quick question from our lawyer. Mr. Glover said Strata's change was 75%. If we do this, Strata's could not change, correct? It would be, it'd be forever.
Through the chair to Councilor McNulty, that is correct. To the committee as a whole, if the desire is to pursue such a covenant, we would require direction to do so as a condition of rezoning. We would then amend our rezoning considerations and have those revised considerations brought forward for consideration at council.
Well, basically, we got 1,300 rental units if we go with it.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant?
Nope.
All right. I do have a couple of questions for park staff. We've had a lot of correspondence from members of the public about the park, and thank you to Polygon for the redesign of the much larger park. Now, there was questions about the park concept, the need for wildlife interpretation, and perhaps an outdoor concert band shell in the park. So perhaps can staff let us know what the process going forward is for the park?
To the chair and the rest of the committee, good afternoon. Alex Kuninsky, park planner. The current direction we have with regards to the process for the overall design is that upon rezoning, we'd prepare a report to council outlining the concept for the park, and then we would request council's direction to proceed with public consultation to inform the design process. And as part of that design process, we'll certainly consider all the input we've received to date, and as well as consider the needs of the future community at Talisman Polygon site, that immediate community as well as the growing community around the site. We certainly see the relocation of the park to its present location, as well as the preservation of a number of trees as an opportunity and a welcome challenge to design a great park for the community.
All right, that's great. So just to confirm all the correspondence on the park, you have that, and that will continue on with your public consultation. I mean, this is going to be a whole new neighborhood, so I would assume that there will be a citywide consultation open to anybody in Richmond to have input into that.
Yes, Madam Chair. We certainly be employing a typical public consultation process through Let's Talk Richmond and public meetings. Likely those public meetings will be restricted to online activities, but nonetheless, we'll certainly have all that input to inform the design. With respect to that specific point regarding a band shell, it should be noted that just down the road along Canby at Aberdeen Park, which is only several hundred meters west, we are going to be constructing a covered stage venue that essentially functions as a bench hall.
Thanks very much. Councillor Day?
Motion that we amend the application and use Wayne Craig's wording, which was just perfect, that would have unrestricted rentals and age restrictions in perpetuity on this development. And afterwards, I'd like to make another motion that we refer to staff to look at making this a policy citywide.
So, Mr. Craig, is that the correct wording? Can't hear you.
Yes, Madam Chair, that will work for us. Should this pass, we would provide a memo to council for Monday night with the revised considerations attached.
Okay, so there's the recommendation that's
But I'd move the recommendation with the number 5 as Mr. Craig's wording.
Okay, so Councillor Day moved that. Are you seconding that, Councillor
Second it, then.
So moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is carried.
Aye.
Thank you. So this will come to council next Monday. And Councillor Day, you have a referral?
I'd like to make a referral that we direct staff to look at potentially creating a policy that would allow for all future developments, for example, Lansdowne, to also require no rental restrictions and no age restrictions in perpetuity.
I would second that, but I'd take the word potential that we create the policy because we just did it.
Yes.
With due respect, we've just done it. We got 1,300. So I would say we have a policy, but let's draft it up in paper. So I second that.
Okay, that's a friendly amendment.
That's been moved and seconded. The clerk, did you get all that?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Is there any discussion on this? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
It is carried. Thank you. And I don't believe there are any managers' updates, but we do have...
I've got a question.
Pardon me?
I've got my hand up.
Oh, sorry. You have a question in public?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
I wanted to follow up a little more on the trees. I'm concerned about saving the trees. We have a problem with when we do that. And the problem is we cut out all the underbrush and we have manicured lawns underneath it. And I'd say 2/3 of the habitat loss is the loss of the brush and the smaller plants that the birds and the bees and everything else need to populate the area. So effectively, by just saving the trees, you're not saving the birds or anything else. And I've seen it happen at Britannia Shipyard. We spent $160,000 at a plan decades ago to fill a whole area with a forest. And our staff went in, and later developers, probably not developers, people who were developing the land for the city, cut the trees and the shrubs all down and mowed the lawn around them. And of course, it destroyed the effectiveness. On the other hand, if you don't look after the park and the trees, it ends up overgrowing with Himalayan blackberries, and that's equally bad. So I guess my question to staff is what are we looking at and actually really providing a natural area rather than just individual trees that really don't help much. They do sequester carbon dioxide, but that's about all. And we saw a lot of pictures of hawks and birds that were presented to us online at this meeting.
Through the chair to Councillor Steeves, thank you for your comments. I think just to back up a bit, if we were going to open this area up to the public for absolutely any public access, first and foremost, we would need to cut the trees that are deemed a hazard tree, as well as prune any existing trees to ensure that it's safe for workers as well as the public to be underneath that canopy. And absolutely point taken regarding the undergrowth as being a component of that overall ecosystem, providing habitat for insects, pollinators, as well as birds, for sure. So certainly part of any planning process would consider undergrowth, rehabilitating that undergrowth and creating the stories in the forest. It's not just the canopy and the bottom. We understand that. It's also a diversity of flowers, berries, density of habitat, etc., for nesting sites and creating that ecosystem. And last point I'd like to provide to the committee is yes, there are existing pockets of invasive plants, and Polygon has developed an invasive species management plan, and that does include, unfortunately, Japanese knotweed, but of course, Himalayan blackberry. So that is also, unfortunately, part of the undergrowth that has to be managed, or otherwise it becomes actually a liability on the city.
Thank you very much. All right. So staff has direction.
That's fantastic. That's what I want to do.
Good. Thank you. All right. Seeing no further business, I look for adjournment.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? It is carried. And we'll just need a couple of minutes to go get back into the closed meeting.